Hi everyone, it's Rob from Innon here, and in this video I'd like to introduce you to a product called Link Touch that we sell. So what is Link Touch? It's basically an Android touchscreen. It's like a sort of industrial sort of style one with sort of metal casing that you can mount in a panel. There's two versions. There's a 10-inch one we've got here, and on this little Visa stand here we've got a 15-inch version. So what these are designed to do is be a BMS or a BEMS touchscreen, specially designed for HMI, human machine interface, for any BEMS web user interface essentially, although it can be used for other things. Even though this is an Android touchscreen, central to its workings and the way it works so well with your BEMS interfaces is there's an app installed on here which we've created, which we'll talk about in a minute in more detail. So as we said, we've got one here on a little Visa mount that you can't see, but that Visa mount could be put on a wall if you so wish, or it can be flush mounted into a panel. You can see here that there's little places to put brackets to put it into a panel. So why this Android touchscreen for your BMS? There's a lot of options out there. There's things you can buy yourself and set up yourself. Now, I suppose the one way to summarise that is our app. Our app is what makes the magic happen. It's what makes it super secure for a start. It locks down, you've got USB ports on here. It locks them down so people can't load things on that they shouldn't be and take uploads that they shouldn't. It blocks all the external commands so no one can hack into it and do silly things like that. And the settings are very much locked down. You can't go into here and get into like the Android settings and start messing around and causing people problems, and users who just want to use a BMS, you can't lock them out and cause them problems. So that app also makes it very easy to set up as an engineer. We're going to see in a minute, there's things called panels, which are little shortcuts, and a set of stripped down settings that you can use for brightness and timeouts, and so you don't have to go diving into the Android settings just to get it deployed into the field really quickly and get it working. As we said, it's easy for the users. People can't mess around with the settings and make things difficult and hide things. It just streamlines the user, the workflow, as it were, to get them into their user interface as quickly as possible with minimum fuss, and to keep them there, not let them sort of stray outside that and get lost. So I hope that's of interest to you, and if it is, stick around because we're going to go over to the bench now and take a closer look at the hardware side of things. Right, so let's have a look around one of these Link units. This is the 10-inch version, and see what we've got hardware-wise. So obviously there's a touchscreen on the front. On the top there you've got a Wi-Fi aerial, so you can connect this up to a Wi-Fi access point. There's two serial ports. They're redundant, they're not used. On the back here, we've got an on-off button that you can switch the unit on and off with, obviously. And you've got two brightness buttons, but they're redundant, they're not used. There's an LED power light. Also on here, you'll notice there's the Visa fixings. If you remember on the desk, I had the 15-inch version on the little desk stand. That was using a Visa bracket on the back. But equally, you could use this, you could fix it on a wall if you like. Just to say, if you do that, as you can see, you know, it kind of exposes the ports. You might want to run a bit of trunking to neaten things up. So ideally, this is usually flush mounted into a panel. And the way to do that is there's a couple of little bracket holes here. It comes supplied with brackets. You can fit the brackets in there, cut a hole in your panel and clamp it to the panel door. So yeah, you've got the same on the other side, obviously. Go to the bottom. This is kind of the business end of things, where there's a lot of connectivity. On the right here, we've got the power supply. This is a 12-volt DC power supply. We provide a power brick included. That power brick is 100 to 240 volt AC, so that will work pretty much anywhere in the world, and we give you 3 different plug adapters for it. So there's one for the UK, one for the EU, one for the US that will probably cover you 90% of applications around the world, hopefully. So you'll notice there's 2 Ethernet ports here. So these can be connected to 2 different IP subnets. So you could have one onto your BMS IP subnet, and maybe you could use this optionally to connect to maybe a broadband router where you don't want the BMS directly connected to a broadband router. So that might be an option for you. This is an HDMI port, obviously, and what this does is mirror what's on the screen. So an application, or an example of an application you could use this for, is to connect it to a larger screen. Use this unit to drive a larger screen, so it'll have all the nice functionality to connect you directly to your web station graphical user interface on a TON, a Chase, for example. It could be a TON as well. Why not? And basically then it will mirror out this port onto a bigger screen. Same reception. Say if you wanted a dashboard in reception, a big dashboard, this would be too small for people to look at coming through reception. You could use that to use this HDMI iPort to drive that bigger screen. You might ask, why don't we just install the app on a bigger screen? Well, we don't sell the app separately, so you'd have to use this to drive that bigger screen. That's the only way you could do it using our product. There's a little USB-C port here. That's to connect your laptop. Then there's an app on our website you can use to factory reset this unit if you want to do that for whatever reason. There's a number of reasons you might want to do that, but that's what that is for. There's 2 USB ports here. Now, this is primarily or solely in standard form to upgrade the unit. So from time to time, we maintain the app that we've created or developed. And we have little bug fixes and feature enhancements and additions and things like that that are available on our support site. So you get the file from the support site, put it on a USB stick that into there, and then go through into settings and update the unit, which we'll have a little look at later. So that covers the hardware. Let's go and have a look and see how we can use a touchscreen to configure the unit and then use the unit. Right, so let's talk about how our app works with this touch screen. Now, what you're looking at here is like the front screen. This is our app running. And the first thing to say is you cannot get rid of this app. You can't minimize it and go into the desktop and start doing other things. So what this does, it locks it into a state where users can get straight back in and start going back to their BMS web user interface on the JACE or whatever you set it on. So that is a very important feature. It just keeps people on the straight and narrow and makes things easy for users, and they can't get lost. So before we go into and show you what all these what we call panels are basically shortcuts do, let's go into the settings first and just show you what you can set. Like we say, it is locked down, so you can't get into Android, but we expose some simple settings that you might want, like volume and brightness and things like that, and the sleep timer. If you want the screen to go to sleep, if it's sitting in a plant room and people aren't using it, there's no point wasting energy like that. So you can set this in minutes or seconds using this little button here and setting the number there. You can change the password here as well, if you like, which you should do really. So system settings, if you click on there, let's see what we get there. Now, generally, what you're going to use this for is when you as an engineer are going to set this up. By the way, this is password protected, or it can be. Mine isn't at the moment for demo purposes, but you can set passwords up to stop users going in here and messing around. Now, the first thing, or the thing that you're going to use this for, is when you set up the display screen, when you're commissioning it, you might want it to connect to a Wi-Fi access point, or you might want to set the Ethernet ports. You can do it from here. If you scroll down, there's a limited amount of settings that you can set to do with the Android operating system, but it's very much cut down and limited to what you can do. But these are the main settings here to get it commissioned up here, which are quite handy for you. Another thing you can do is update the application from here. Now, I've just plugged in, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little USB dongle in there. Once you plug that in and you click on here, it will search the USB ports, it will see that, and it will see a valid configuration file or firmware update file. And you can install the update. I won't do that now, but it's as easy as that. You get the file off our website, put it on a USB stick, plug it into one of the USB ports, and go to settings and click update application. It will find it and start the process for you if you wish to do that. There's a set of little buttons down here which you can scroll up. You swipe up from the bottom of the screen. There's some volume settings on and off, and a little back button which gets you back to this main panel menu. So let's have a look at panels. Now, what these are little shortcuts really within our app. So say you had, say this was in a plant room for a set of AHUs in the plant room, you might want just one AHU graphical user interface, web user interface within the JACE in the panel, for example. Or this could go back to a web station centrally on the site, or whatever you want. And also, it doesn't have to be BEMS. Maybe there's a UPS in the plant room. You could have a little shortcut to go to the web user interface on that if it has one. I've seen some UPSs that have that. You might want to provide access to that for the user as well. And these are nice little shortcuts to guide them in. They don't have to know IP addresses. You can preset the password. So it's best to go in now and have a look and see what I'm talking about there. So we click edit. That's password protected too, but I've unlocked it here for demo purposes. So all we've got here is a convenient little name. You might want to call that AHU or UPS or whatever the graphical user interface is associated with. The URL, basically that could be HT, that could be secure or insecure, and it could be a an IP address or a domain name there. Now here is the login types. Now This is what makes it very easy for users to get in and out, but it can compromise the security a little bit. You need to decide how you want to use this. So you can have a manual login, which is most secure. People have to put their username and password in. A basic authentication, so that would be like, say, UPS that's just got a basic web user interface authentication scheme. Then you have the Niagara specific ones. Okay, so this is great for if you are Niagara systems houses and things, and you're putting N4 systems in, or you've got old legacy AXs. But with the N4, it guides the process. There's this two-stage thing, isn't there, where you have to select the user, then it goes to another screen, you have to put the password in. This manages that for you and makes it seamless for the user when they press view on the panel that we saw in the previous screen. So if you do select that, you have to then set up the username and the password. Now, security-wise, you might decide that you want to do an auto login for a view-only user, and you might want to have a manual one for engineering access to make it a little bit more secure. It's up to you how you do that. So you could have one panel for the read-only sort of basic user to see what the AHUs are doing, and plant attendant type sort of role if you like, or plant maintenance. And then you could have like a engineer access one for someone who's a bit more senior or a bit more au fait with the system. It's up to you how you do that, but you can have two separate panels to achieve that if you like. So down here we've got some other options. Default view, that basically means if this powers down and powers up, when it reboots, if you can only have one panel set to this, if it sees that set as default, it will go straight into that panel. And usually you'd use this with an automatic login as well, and it would log you straight in and give you the home page of that user. So it's just a way of getting the users back into the user interface and logged in without having to go through and press buttons. If they're not too sure how to do that, you might want to use that feature or not. The keypad is if you select that, say if I was to put it on when it goes red like that, that just cuts the keypad down from being alphanumeric to just being numeric. So if you've got users that just want to change set points and things like that, it just makes it the workflow a lot simpler and less confusing for people who aren't quite that up on using Android touchscreens. Perhaps you just want them to put numbers in for set points. It might be useful to do that for your users. You've got a viewers panel desktop if you want to do that. You've got link touch automatic scaling. Now, this was a feature request from a customer a little while back. As we know with Niagara N4, or those of us that are familiar with Niagara N4 know that the HTML5 pages, they scale nicely. If you use SVG graphics, the quality is maintained. It all works really nicely out of the box. But we had a customer that had a less sophisticated system, and it was putting big borders around, and when they stretched it out, it didn't work very well. So that will scale a web page accordingly for a system. So it might be a feature that will help you with a specific device to get around its scaling problems if it doesn't use HTML5. Pinch and zoom is just what it says. It allows you to do the pinch and zoom thing on the PX page. So you've got a PX page, you can go in and have a closer look at things. It's for those who've got challenges with their eyesight and things like that. That might be a little useful feature depending on what you're doing, what the graphics are, how detailed they are. So from here, you can delete panel, you can preview it, and if you make changes, you can update it. So if we go back to the panel pages, we can add more. We can add a number of different ones, and this is how you do it. Okay, so we go back, we won't add that one there. So let's just go in and have a look at one of these pages. We've got a very simple one here. It's nothing exciting, but when you click view, you'll see it's logging in for the user. On this one, I set an N4 login. It's going through the two stages for me, which is nice. I just come to a simple little graphic, just a demo. And once you're in here, it just works like a normal page. You can click on things. You can do actions. You can see alarms there, so I could click on the alarm viewer. You can acknowledge alarms, just in the same way as you would from a PC or something like that. Let's just close that down. There you go. So once I close the pop-up, it does have to refresh the screen. So we just give it a second to do that. So as you can see, this graphic, some of the items are a little bit small. It's more suited to a PC page, but I've selected the pinch zoom, if you remember, so we can go in there, take a closer look at things, and clicking on things is a lot better. And that zoomed a bit too much there, but so I can change the set point on here. Change that to 21. OK, that. And then it goes back. We can zoom back out of there. Also, I happen to know you can graph that value there, so I can click on that, and it will bring up a history for me. We give it a minute to go and get that. So you can see history there as well, and you can click on this and get the sort of value read-offs on the line there and things like that. So let's cancel that, come out of there. Oh, there we go. And we'll zoom back out, we just need to let it refresh. And there we are, back at the normal zoom level. Okay, so just to say, this is just a little demo graphic. It's very basic, but we actually sell a widget library for Niagara N4 called Reflow. That will significantly improve the user experience and give you a much sort of richer graphical user interface. So if that's something that would interest you, yeah, please speak to us about that. So I hope you found that interesting. If you'd like to know a little bit more about this product, please head on over to our website and our support sites where you can get data sheets and manuals and things like that. And also maybe you'd like to have a look at our knowledge base where there's articles on these things and much more. So thanks for watching and see you in the next video.